Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Recovery Live. Came to Believe Recovery is a little weekly live stream where we discuss everything recovery, I'm going to say today. And I want to welcome my co host, Alicia Martinez from Auburn, California. How are you today, Alicia?
I'm good. Wow, no hesitation. Where do you live? Where do you live? Because I move all the time, but
Mhm.
Auburn. Yes,
And what's the weather like in Auburn, California today?
it's good. It's like 60s. Supposed to be warm this week, like which means 70s or 80s, and then it'll go cold. Fall is here for sure, which I'm happy about. I love it when it's dark earlier. Everyone around
hmm
me hates it. I love it. And I love the colder weather.
I think we don't fall back this year in time, but we'll let one of our viewers or somebody tell us. I know that the Congress voted that we stay on daylight savings time now, the whole country.
Really?
So,
So
and I
how are we
think it
supposed to
starts
know
this
if
year.
we
So
do or we not? Who's going to tell us?
I know, right? I think this year we
I need
don't
someone to
fall
tell
back.
me.
So it'll get darker just because of nature. The sun moves in the winter, but it won't get that extra hour of darkness. So I
If
think that's
anybody
the truth.
knows on the comments,
Yeah.
please let me know because it's
So
coming. It's like the first
hate
weekend in November is when we do it.
I hate the cold and I hate the dark days,
I love it.
but I do like the fall and I like the colors of the fall and stuff. For the next few weeks, it's perfect. It's why I was talking to someone the other day, Alicia. We all in the summer we all are saying, "Why do we live here? The traffic, the people, the heat, New Jersey." Wah. And then the
And
fall
then the
comes,
fall, you're like,
and we
oh,
all
this is
go,
why.
"Oh, this is." I was on a hike this weekend up at a park in New Jersey, and now I know why we live here. I mean, it was just spectacular. And I'm going to go on another famous hike this weekend coming up. But we're into October. September's over, so we have some upcoming events. We have the you and I are doing some leadership training for some people. We're going to do some development training in a couple weeks. We have a commuter retreat in California. If you're in the Bay Area, especially,
In
um,
October, in a couple
it's in
weeks, right?
October, the 21st and 20th, 21st and 22nd. There's openings. We'd love for you to come and hear the message of the founders. Take the 12 steps in a weekend, like they did, and learn how to live in the go, which is part of what we're going to talk about today. Is the first part of living in the go is steps 10, 11, and 12, the things that we live on. You and I
Oh,
like to call it recovery
Dale,
assurance.
yes, but Dale says he thinks we do the clock thing. So I'll find that out and somehow let you
But he
know.
says, as far as I know. So if you know Dale, he doesn't really know that much, as far as I know.
Oh,
So
I
he's
trust
shaking his
him.
head right now,
I
but
trust him.
it's
I think, because I think so too. But
whatever.
oh yeah, so we have
Whatever.
community retreat. Let's go
Um,
back. In October, we have Leesburg.
we have the
November,
community retreat, and then we have the Leesburg retreat after that, November.
I
And
know.
then after that, we have the Malibu retreat. So we get a retreat a month going on here. It's fabulous. And there's openings. Leesburg's got 37 people, I think, signed up right now. So that'll fill up. And we have 11 people for Malibu a couple months ahead. We're going to start rallying the team here in the California and LA area now these next few weeks.
Yeah,
And
I'll be going to that
um,
one. I'm
we're just
excited.
excited about being able to do it. And then then we have the virtual retreat coming up
January.
in January. We were talking about this wonderful idea that we're going to do in New York City. I think it's really preemptive, but Lisa came up with it, and it kind of stuck. Cass and I loved it. We're going to do a series of 1 hour talks and discussions in the city called Mocktail Hour. Mocktail Hour, right? Have you ever heard of that?
Ah,
You're not reacting, Alicia. There you go. Mocktail Hour,
hmm. And where is this happening?
and we're going to invite. Well, we're going to find a place, probably 32 Prince, where you were.
Okay.
So, and have mocktail. And actually, Lisa found there's somebody who has a huge TikTok following, and they do mocktail just talks or something. And so we're trying to reach out to this person to see. That's an automatic audience. And there's some sober bars in um, No, he doesn't.
Right? In New
There's some
York?
sober bars down in New York that also would probably support it. They call it, and it's mocktails, cocktails without alcohol. So we're it's an idea that we've presented, but we're gonna do a series of mocktailers. I mean, we're gonna do it when we start. We're
And
not
then
exactly sure.
what would you
And,
be doing with your mocktails? Talking about something?
well, at the mocktail hour, we're gonna have a talk. Yeah, there'll be a talk, and people can have a mocktail and come and hear a talk about recovery or a
Something recovery
controversial
related.
subject, a
Okay.
steps about the steps. Yeah, and it's about awareness and about getting people to understand who we are and opening up discussions and conversations. It's all about getting our boots on the ground in New York City, um, moving or getting boots on the ground, right? That know about came to believe. So that's an effort that's going to go on. So we got a lot of stuff going here, in New York City, and that's where I am today. I'm coming to you live from Radio City Music Hall. It sounds wonderful,
New York
right?
City.
Rockefeller
New
Center,
York City.
New York
Right.
City.
But today we get to talk all
And
about step
you,
10. Did you have more to
we
talk
get to
about
talk
still
about
before
step
we
10
get there?
today.
And we have 2 guests.
I don't think we do.
Yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm.
Or is Cass coming?
We
That
do.
would be 3.
I don't think
He's
Cass
reading.
is coming.
Okay, so we have 2
She's
guests.
the wizard behind the screen today.
Okay.
But so why don't you introduce our guests, Alicia, and then we're going to talk about step 10, which is a wonderful step. It's part of our living program.
It's a very important step. Yeah. So we have Sue and Daryl. Sue is from Florida, though she might be in another state because she travels to other states. And Daryl is on my side of the United States. Bring them on.
There's
There they
Daryl.
are. Are you actually in Florida, Sue, right now?
I
Okay.
am. Mhm.
And Dale is in Daryl. Did I say
In
Dale?
paradise.
Daryl's in paradise, but sometimes he's on the East Coast because his job brings him over there. One of the Carolinas, right?
North
Carolina.
Yes.
What city?
So we're
Actually, it's all over the state from Wilmington up to Raleigh, Jacksonville, all over the state. Yep. Rebuilding homes that were taken out by a few hurricanes.
Something somebody from paradise would know how to do.
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yes. Yes. That's what we happen to be doing here in paradise as well. So,
Mhm.
Wow.
you know the story. The town of Paradise burned down with 15,000 structures destroyed. So, yeah.
That's with 2 digits, a comma, and then 3 more digits.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a lot of destruction.
It's really.
Okay. How do we start
I
this?
went up there a couple of years ago. Yeah.
You were
Well,
in
it's
paradise?
step 10. So let's do a little background. What?
No, go ahead. We're going back.
Yeah, we'll do a little background. So what happened? Yeah, we're going back and forth. Step 10 is it's really part of the living part of the steps that has always been that way. And I think it's been utilized in a lot of recovery meetings as a step that's incorporated with all the rest of the steps all the time. So even people that do 1 and 4 over again and 6 and 7 and all over again, they still do 10 as well. It doesn't compute with me if you read step 10 and read it carefully, and we'll read it today and we'll all talk about it, that it's pretty clear to me that it means this is what you do now. You don't go back and do 1 through 9 again or 4. It doesn't say that. It tells you what to do when something happens after learning how to do, 10, 11, and 12. And we'll illuminate that today, that really what 1 through 9 is teaching us is how to do 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. And giving us that template, giving us that big purpose to do it.
Can I say what step 10 is right now, just in case there's somebody listening that's like, what is step 10? Oh, there it is. Thank you, Cass. Continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it.
Is that the shortest step we have? In terms of the number of words?
That I don't know. That's like a Sue question. Well, no, because 7
No,
is humbly
humbly
asked him to remove our shortcomings.
number 7 is shorter.
7's pretty short.
Okay.
Of course, Sue would ask this question.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that the whole step, all of the steps, the words seem to be chosen very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very few words in step 10, and yet it is
Complicated.
huge. And
Yeah.
you would think it would have to have several paragraphs, but you could do a whole thing on continued.
I love that. That's the best word in the whole thing. I circled it, squared it, and yeah.
Right. And that was a great quote that Cass had put up there. Well, you can bring that up. That'd be great because here's where we can start this conversation. This thought brings us to step 10. This is right out of the big book, guys. And it starts on the top of page 84 from the big book. On any version you have, it's on page 84. And what thought is that? Right? This is where we're going to start with really looking at these sentences. It says, this thought brings us to step 10. And what's the thought? It's right after the promises of step 9. So the thought is at the conclusion of step 9, now what? Well, it suggests we continue to take personal inventory, which is part of looking back at step 4, where it says this will be a good beginning. If you've looked at grosser handicaps and common manifestations, you've made a good beginning. Here it goes on to say we continue to take personal inventory. And this all helps in how we teach that you don't have to know everything in step 4. You know your big natures, but we're teaching you a process because step 10 will allow you to continue this process. But it's continued as a 10, not as a 4. So really, really important in these just 2 sentences read into this program about clearing up myths and actually keeping our direction focused.
Right. But I see how people could think that they're doing 4 again because we're dealing with those same defects of character. And so I'm sure that's the connection. But if you are really into the big book and reading what this step says, then you can see that you're not doing step 4 again. You're continuing, which is a 10. The 11 and 12. Right? But
continued,
right?
So
then what if someone says, well, we're continuing with step 4. So we are in step 4. Do you get that?
Yeah.
Do people say that to
Well-
you? Or
Well, it makes sense that you are because you are.
right.
You're
but it's still
doing
a
it.
10.
You're doing
But
step
it's a
4.
10.
But now you're in 10. Mhm.
Mhm.
But listen to that. So listen to what it says, guys, because that's a good point, Alicia. It's a good point. It says we continue to set right any new mistakes.
Yes.
Step 4 was
Thank
for our
you.
past. It was our character defects. This says any new mistakes moving forward. And now it goes further to say we vigorously commence this way of living, which is setting right any new mistakes. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. So they're going on at the same time.
They're going on at the
right?
same time.
1 through 9, you've got your time, you're working, you have it, but you've done it. But they're going on it, you're cleaning up your past, but the step 10 process is new. It's all the new stuff that we're going through. So you're really not doing
that.
again.
I wouldn't say it's all new. My experience is that I believe you sometimes call them favorites. You will discover over time that you have some favorites that you rely on when you're under stress. So they come up again. It's like a whack-a-mole, I think is what Steve says. It's just like, they pop up, whack, whack, whack. But now you've got the hammer. and you didn't even know it was coming up before. So you're continuing to clean up the past really says that the past will pop up in places that you don't expect, but no way can you do all that at one time. Like, let's just do this fourth step. Don't stay on it very long because you'll never get it perfect. You are just developing a skill. You are developing a skill that you will repeat over and over in step 10. Mm-hmm. So you go through it once like a golf lesson. It's, you got the backswing that's over here, and you got the, and you go out and you play the game, and you discover that you've forgotten some of those lessons. So, and your backswing gets to be a little too fast. Well, it's not like you have to go back. You just say, oh man, I remember that. I'll just fix that. So it is a continuing skill that you refine, but that you were introduced in 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You were introduced to the patterns. Then when they pop up, which they will do, thank goodness they come up sort of one at a time. And as you discover these patterns of choices, you say, oh, there I am. Ooh, I'm wrong. I've got that wrong thing popping up again. I know just how to fix that. And then you fix it. So is it new or is it old? It's all of the above.
Yeah. Hey, Sue, that's fantastic. And I can really appreciate what you just said, because, at the end of my addiction run after, nearly 40 years, I had obviously some pretty profound character defects, went through step 4, did the appropriate step work. But of course, just as you said, and you as well, Tom, continued to take personal inventory in step 10, because you guys may have heard me say this before. I have a record player. All of us are old enough to know what a record is, right? So I've got a record player up in my brain that's etched a certain way after 40 years.
Cool.
40 years of behavior, right? Mm-hmm. So now I've got to re-etch the grooves in my record player. So for me, I can only talk about my own experience, strength, and hope. I needed something that kind of assisted me in that continuing effort to rewrite. And just as you said, so this is something that I developed, back, and it is a daily, across here lists the character defects. And then this is every day of the month. All of a sudden, here I am, I'm taking a quick review, was I dishonest the day before? Was I fearful? This is every morning. So I force myself to do this. And all of a sudden, across just a month or even a week, you start saying, ooh, I'm a little out of balance here, right? And then move into prayer and meditation, step 11. And then obviously continuing to come back to the fellowship and help others, work through their step 10 and train and guide and coach and counsel. So it was extremely useful to me, because it helped me rewrite that. And it's an ongoing basis.
I like that. Is that kind of a signal we're going to give each other? I think I'm in that groove again.
I
love it.
It's a lifetime. I mean, while this helped me, right, develop a habit. I mean, I no longer use this, but it helped me to develop the habit, the thought process, the training. So every morning I review the day before, and then et cetera. So
you made that up all by yourself?
Yeah, that's
I love it. I love that.
My own experience, strength, and hope. And when you start highlighting the little boxes where you were, I use the yellow highlighter, right? And I'd highlight the boxes across the month, the month. And oh my gosh, it totally identifies. Daryl, you need some emphasis on this area. So it tells me, where do I need to talk to my higher power? Where do I need prayer guidance and help? Where do I need to talk to my sponsor? Hey, look, I've had this. I've slipped 7 days in a row here. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any positives in there?
Oh, of course. So the sheet. So it's hard to see. Obviously.
Oh, he's got a backside.
So that's why there's like a little divider in each box, because the top part is the negative, right? The character defect, and then the lower part is the positive, the asset. So like the book says, right? Was I resentful towards anyone or anything? And then at the bottom, all the questions in the book, the AA big book at the bottom, ask for God's forgiveness, listen and write down anything that comes to mind, no matter how weird, and what positive, how did we contribute to life? How did we give back? So the positive side of the equation is addressed on the sheet. Yeah.
Wow. So you share that with others?
Oh, sure.
You're going to send it to me?
Absolutely.
I need one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is action. You're speaking my language, taking action, and things that get measured, he's measuring it, get monitored. If we don't know, and then 2 months later, 10 months later, I don't know. So we need to look at our step 10. We need to be aware of what keeps coming up with self-justification, pride, and judgment, or mine. I mean,
but he's got all those words there, because it's really a vocabulary lesson that we all have. We just say sad or angry, but now you're learning new words so that we can be more specific about what we're really feeling.
Like Atlas of the Heart that you told Tom and I to read, which we did.
Just having a vocabulary for it, like the Eskimos have a 40 words for snow or something like that, because those are the things we have to know. They have to know. I don't need to know. I'm in Florida. I got snow, SNOW. But with our territory is our emotional world, so we need to have words.
Right.
In the beginning was the word.
Yes.
You got to know the word.
So I would fear that people would hear what we say, like the practical assessing step 10, doing step 10, or if they see that sheet, I would imagine most people, not me, would be like, it's too much. It's too hard. I don't know. But maybe that sheet is more for like us, because we've been doing this for a while and now we need to step up. But those that love action would love that sheet. So like, what do I do? Okay, I do this. But I see others, same in all areas of like things that get monitored, like with our nutrition and our exercise, and how is your relationship doing? If we don't look at it and measure it, then we're not being held accountable. So I think that goes in line with that. But I love that sheet.
I'll get it out to y'all.
Yeah, please.
I mean, it helped me.
We love those two.
I again, after the really deep engraved grooves in my record player, I literally did this for an entire year.
Wow.
And it doesn't take long, because all you're doing is just going down the day and checking the boxes, where maybe I, was I lustful on that day? Was I overly proud, or was I humble? Was I greedy or generous? Was I angry? Was I angry that day? It's just a checkbox. It takes 4 minutes. 4 minutes to go down and check the boxes. But again, the most important thing is that when you check the boxes daily and you get in the habit of doing this 5-minute little exercise, all of a sudden you start seeing trends develop.
Trends and patterns.
Listen, I'm an addict, right? The last thing I want to feel is pain. So it's hard for me on my own accord, or was hard for me on my own accord, under my own will, right after the treatment center and fresh in recovery. It was hard for me to do this on my own. I needed this tool to help me. It was right on my bed, boom boom boom, it was there. It reminded me. I filled it out, and then away I went. And like I said, after over time, it became like clockwork. So
It's just it's a
So
tool, and it's wonderful that we need these tools, and we teach this at retreats, guys. Right? We teach that you got to find a tool, and we give some suggestions at retreats, and that's a great tool, Dale, that we should start to bring to our retreats and offer that to people, and say, here's one thing I use the inventory sheet and the promises. You have that sheet, which does it. The big book has a sheet. There's apps on your phone to help you go
Right.
through their step 10. Be on it. The whole point is what?
Mhm.
Do
do
your
it.
step 10 every day, right?
Action.
Continuing to grow
Right.
effectiveness. We're doing a couple things. We're setting right new mistakes, and we're cleaning up our past. We're still doing our 9, 10. And part of continuing is, Sue, I agree with you. Part of that could be called cleaning up the past too. We're still rewriting the grooves,
Right.
but they're the habits and they're the things that we haven't gotten a handle on, and we got to break from that. That's why step 10 is we're not perfect. It's progress. And we're going to
Yeah.
make a mistake, and we have a way to fix it. Let's fix
Mhm.
it and move on so that they don't build up again.
Mhm.
And you haven't really taken the nature back if step 7 works, because we think or we know it does, but you've made a mistake,
Mhm.
right? Because we always say this, you're not a procrastinator anymore, but you might procrastinate. And there's a difference because you're not okay with it, right? If you're okay with it, then maybe you took the nature back, right? You have that nature in you. But if you're not okay with it, it's a new mistake. And you wouldn't need to do a step 4 on that. We're getting deep, but you wouldn't. It's just a mistake. It's a groove in your record that has to be rewritten.
Yeah.
And
That's a
growing and
great
understanding.
analogy. I love it. I love that groove analogy. Don't like the groove, but I love the analogy. Yeah. Well, the definition of addiction is really that it's a behavior or some choice that you make based on something that worked almost. So if it almost works, then you have to keep going back to that when you're stressed or feeling anxious, or you don't even know what it is, but you know you're just not right. So you go to some kind of behavior that will help you center. And that is what we expect to happen every day in 10. But then what we know is that at that very moment you recognize it. And we've got words for it. Aha. You could do the chart or not the chart, but the chart it's like your vocabulary list, your spelling list. You just, while you're new and learning these words, you check that off or you don't. But the main thing is, you recognize a behavior that used to work. The situations still come up, and I'm going to try that one. I used to always do the manipulation thing, or I used to always lie because it would help me. Then you take that nanosecond and say, I'm just going to try the truth this time. Or maybe it takes you a day to do the truth. It might take you a whole day. But we are in 10, and we're committed to find those wrongs. So we don't just discover it. It just says when we were wrong, This is past tense again. So you continually have these choices. And sometimes we stay with, I'm going to keep that lie until Tuesday. Maybe Tuesday I'll tell the truth. But we get to Tuesday, and all that's going on in our head during that time, and then we get to choose. And I think before we did our first step 4, we didn't even know what we were looking for.
Right.
We didn't have any way of taking our feelings and connecting them to the roots of where they came from. So now we see that path. It might take us a while to choose that path in terms of seconds or weeks, but we've got the vision, we've got the sight, we've got the commitment. We might not all have the chart, but we're going to have it as soon as you send it to us.
I mean, that's the secret behind this. Sue, you're exactly right. It's teaching us that something we never knew before was to define a feeling or a liability or an activity and define it, and then a process to say this didn't work. And when we have some sort of negative consequence later, it drives us to, wait, I did this process before. Let me dial back and try to figure out what this is, the root. We didn't know how to do this before, so we just reveled in all our stuff. And we got this process, and step 10 helps us continuing to do it. And the new mistake might be a new thing that we didn't know before, but we're triggered, and now we know how to handle it. And we
love those triggers. We've turned those triggers into our best friends.
Our best friends. I mean,
go ahead.
It's it's so interesting today, and I've had instances, they happen all the time now. Not all the time, when they happen, and I'm tweaked, I always first look inside and see why am I being triggered by this?
Huge.
What is it about me? Look at a 10, look at an 11, look at myself. And it's not always all me, because sometimes there are things people do to you and situations that happen that do require you to say, hey, that's not okay. I don't need to handle that. But more times than not, I'm tweaked by it because of something I need to be healed from, probably, or something I need to handle on the inside. And that is emotional maturity, I think, right? As we get good at doing this. But this process helps us. If you do this, guys listening, 10, 11, and 12, we're growing in effectiveness. We're getting a better conscious contact with our Creator. We're learning how to flow in His Spirit within us and get better. That's next week, our concept. But it all goes together. And what ends up happening to us is what? We have better lives. All of a sudden, there's less problems, less issues, more success, better relationships, everything.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I didn't need to drink or drug today, or even think about it as we're doing this. It's really, really just a miracle the way this program works, if you work.
Well, hey, Tom, thank you for bringing that up. It's a miracle, the way the program works and the way the program is structured. It's important to recognize that specifically as it relates to the second part of step 10, which is the most critical part of step 10. It's one thing to do the exercise and go through and see, where I was wrong that day, right? But then we have to go to the second part of the action, and that is promptly admit it. Right. That's the beauty of steps 1 through 9, right? We did a searching and moral inventory in step 4. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being in step 5. Step 8, we made a list of those we had harmed. Step 9, step 9, under the guidance of sponsorship and counsel of someone who has walked the program before us, is guiding me how to actually make an effective amends, right?
Huge.
Training us for the prompt action that we need to take in step 10. It's a magical program. And all of that's why steps 1 through 9 in that order are so critical to then move on to step 10. It is the training grounds for a lifelong practice of continuing to take personal inventory,
training ground,
wrong, taking the action to admit it with a right position of the heart. Who
do you admit it to?
To those whom we have harmed. That maybe the day before I got angry with someone, right? And obviously, in retrospect, you'd look at it and you do the self-analysis. Where was I wrong? And obviously admit that wrong.
I think so. The number one person you have to admit it to is yourself.
Ourself.
Yeah,
God.
Of course.
I have an example of doing all that, and it's quite embarrassing, which is like prompting me to say it anyways. My heart's beating right now. And it's so stupid. But I went running this morning, and my road by me, it does not have bike lanes. And there's a few cars, not a lot. I'm fine. So I run on the side where the cars are coming towards me, so I'm fine. I'm self-justifying right now. And so only once before in 2 months have a car come on both sides, and then oops, one of the car has to stop. Whatever, so stop. Well, she was mad, and it happened this morning, and she was like this, and I just went with my middle finger and did that. And my shirt today says Jesus on it. And here I am using my middle finger.
What?
And I was like, and it was so automatic that I prayed right away, laughed at myself, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go home and tell my husband what I did. And he's just going to be like, what? But I did. So I had to do an immediate, I did a step 10. But I couldn't chase her down and go apologize, right? But next time, because I'm going to be running out there again, I need to not do that.
Or not wear that shirt.
Yeah. But it was just self-justification, anger, whatever. So you can't stop. You're blaming her. You can't wait for 2 seconds.
And you're admitting it
Are you
to
kidding
us.
me? So you're going to hit me?
This is going to be recorded. This is going to be in
I did
perpetuity.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But it's good, right, for us to show examples, because I do it multiple times.
That was a groove. That was a groove.
Yeah, it was an automatic.
In that groove, yeah.
You need to wait for me.
And I have a similar one to show people that we are doing our steps 10, and we do it. Is this weekend I was out in New Jersey, and I had to catch an Uber to a train that was going to get me into the city for an event that I had to be at. Plenty of time. The Uber shows up at my house at 4:00, and for some reason at 4:01 the guy just drove away. As I'm walking out the door, just drove away. Now the 10
took
minutes,
one look at you and left.
Whatever. But there's no fix. The train, order another Uber. Even if it came in 10 minutes, that was my buffer. So I'm going to miss the train, and the next train's an hour, and all of a sudden, cascading down the line is not making an event that I had plenty of time for and thought I gave buffer time to, and was all this. And, some interesting language was displayed.
Oh, no.
To yourself, though, or to someone? It was just to yourself?
There was people
into the
within
space.
earshot. There was people within earshot. And what happened was I went down an anger suit and a selfish and self-centered suit. And then I felt sorry for myself. And then it was the give ups, and I'm not going to do, and I'm not. But because of this process, and because I'm
committed to it,
a little bit of that, I dialed it back, took a breath, and said, first of all, the world's not going to end. In the end, all I'll be is late. Make some phone calls. Nobody's going to end the world. I'm going to get there. There's nothing I can do about it. So I have a choice. I can have nothing to do about it and be angry and work through the steps, or I can have nothing to do about it and just be happy as I'm going through it.
So describe where you're feeling this, in your breath, in your neck, in your belly, because that Uber guy went out. You watched him leave. What's happening in your body right there?
It's in my gut. It's a panic, Sue. It's an extreme. It's like the ship sailing away or the plane leaving the gate. It's this extreme feeling of uncontrollability,
uncontrolled and panic,
panic, all of the sudden, and then just sheer chaos and anger. What am I going to do? Anger, and it's these are feelings that were tied to character defects that I would ride right into years back. But this is where I'd say
tied to character defects. Cool. That
Yeah. Right.
these are bodily feelings that
Mhm.
are tied to what you perceived as character defects. Yeah? Is that what you just said?
They were natures that I held and would have kept and been resentful and angry and out fearful. All of these things would have been
Taking a toll on your
fed
body.
into,
Yeah.
right,
But they take a
and
toll
kept
on
through
you.
to the
Yeah.
next day
Yeah.
and take a toll.
Mhm.
And so, but I recognized all of that in a split second ish
Mm.
and took a couple breaths and turned it, did my 10, admitted, wait, this is it, re-centered, and went on with the day. And you know what happened? Nothing.
Nothing.
It all just
Were
worked
you an
out.
hour late?
Well, actually, we called another Uber driver, and they got there quickly, and they actually with 30 seconds to spare,
With the whole 30 seconds.
train, right? So then there was a challenging day. So we make this train on a Sunday afternoon in Summit, New Jersey, into New York City. A beautiful day, should be empty. It's packed with people, standing room. What is going on? Like a Monday morning commuter train. Quickly pull up your little Google Maps. Stevie Nicks playing at the Madison Square Garden. And the train goes right into Penn Station, which is Madison Square Garden for you New Yorkers. Stevie Nicks playing. And they're like, And the subways are all out in New York City from the rain, from whatever. So the sign of a full train means lots of people wanting taxis. No taxis because of the subways. You see how we kept getting challenged.
Yeah.
But after the first challenge, guys, I was focused, and none of that shook me.
But interesting that you took 2 breaths.
2 breaths.
Right then you caught yourself in that panic.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that nanosecond in there, when the Uber goes away and the whole cascade of failure is visible to you, in like your life passes before your eyes, the whole day is going to be screwed up because of this. And at that moment, you could vent all kinds of anger and maybe a few words, but you took 2 breaths. So tell me about the breaths. Does it feel like what are you doing with the breaths? For instance, children, before they die, before they blow into a full-blown cry, that's why they go, and then they go, we automatically know that breath is essential when we're handling emotions. You just said that when you knew at that point to take a couple breaths. A lot was maybe happening in those breaths. Think about what they are and see if you remember.
Yeah, I don't like the fear, and I don't like the panic of it. And I wanted to take 1 breath and 2 breaths to give myself a pause.
Yeah,
it was a pause, and then think about this for a minute. Think about it,
and that really settled your whole nervous system enough to engage your frontal lobe.
Right. And say,
yeah, that's a great
okay,
story.
that did happen, but now what?
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it. I can scream and yell about it if I want to, but I've learned enough to know, and I did. Then the 2 breaths. What are we going to do? And figured it out. But this isn't something, guys, that happens overnight.
Yeah, no, it's a skill, but it's also a trust. That to me, it sounds like you're pulling in the Holy Spirit, and you let go. It's so much happens in those 2 breaths in terms of surrender and trust and prayer, all of that. Okay, whatever's going to happen, I'm going to be okay. I'm still loved. I'm not a failure. It's
All
not
right.
all my fault. I don't have to fix everything. I can just rely that God's hand is in all this, and it all happens in 2 breaths. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the end of the story is, I got to the dinner. It all was fine. The whole night was fine. And I saved a whole bunch of emotional anxiety by taking the 2 breaths
Mhm.
and practicing these principles in all of my affairs, guys.
Mhm.
This is an example of, we talk about this at retreats. We do what we teach, right? We do what we teach.
We certainly
Mhm.
can.
It's about our lives
Not
and
immediately,
becoming
and
greater. It's
sometimes
really something,
imperfectly, but we've got
right?
the plan.
Right.
Mhm.
I'd love to not have the initial reaction, but it's work in progress,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, uh, so there we go. We got step 10, guys. And we make amends. It's something that is so important in our recovery. And I'd love to, as we're unless we have left, we're coming up towards the end of our hour. I'd love to read what they call the step 10 promises, which is part of the book that talks about this condition that now starts to exist as we do this process in our lives. And um, it kind of illuminates what happened to me and maybe what happened to Alicia when she had to go and
The finger.
quickly make amends, talk about it, and she
Go
felt
internal.
better.
Hmm.
Yeah, and she felt better.
But
So wait, I'll just
but you
go
were
ahead, Sue.
also, Alicia was. I mean, she's got these cars. I mean, it's a physically dangerous moment that you were in, weren't you?
Mhm.
So we're always triggered by things that really are dangerous. It's not a
Yeah, but I
that's
wasn't
made up.
angry about that. I was angry at her going like this.
So
I
there's
knew I wasn't
probably
going
a
to get
lesson
hit.
in there.
I was fine. But that's what
Yeah.
really made me
Yeah.
mad. Don't do this to
So
me.
you're gonna
And
read that.
I'm going to read it, but and I was speaking with somebody the other day who clearly is not an addict, but I was going over the program, and they about halfway through said, "Boy, everybody could use this." Can you imagine if everyone we knew this skill, this step 10 skill, and could handle these situations in the same way? How much angst would be avoided? How much, maybe even negative consequences and activity and things that go on would just not happen? A level of peace. We got to keep going, guys, taking this message as far as we can to as many people as we can. Came to Believe Recovery. Come to a retreat. If you've heard this, if you're listening to us and this doesn't sound like anything you've ever heard to do in your recovery, come talk to us. We live it, we breathe it, we teach it, we grow in it, we talk about it like we're here, we fellowship about it, and we get better. But listen to this, guys. It says, and this comes from 84 and 85 of the big book. It's the second paragraph of step 10, and it says, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. And we say, even alcohol or drugs or the Uber driver who didn't leave or the person who almost ran me over on the road or anything else that has us, for this time, sanity will have returned. We'll seldom be interested in liquor, being mad, drugs, this, whatever our brokenness. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. I think I did that, took 2 breaths and recoiled. Because I knew that wasn't going to be good for me to stay in that. We react sanely and normally, and we find that this has happened automatically. We'll see that our new attitude towards our addiction, our liquor, or our issue has been given to us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That's the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are avoiding temptation. We feel as though we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We've not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed.
Safe.
Safe. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. This is our experience, guys. This is how we act so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And that's what we'll talk about next week, guys. How to keep growing our contacts with God.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd just like to add one thing. Again, this is an action step, and it's the last part of the promises, in the big book, right? Are these extravagant promises? We think not, right? Some materialize quickly, some materialize slowly, but they will materialize if we work for them. And that's all about step 10. We continued and we worked.
Yeah.
What a great show, guys. I think it was great. We love talking step 10, all of us, and it's so important. It's so important, this Living in the Go, that we've dedicated, one of our days at retreat towards this whole process of letting people, we're calling it from the mountains and speaking it out. So I want to thank Sue and Daryl for joining us today. Living in the Go. Yes, she's got the bag. You'll get one of those if you come to Leesburg Retreat this November. But guys, we invite you to come next week. We're going to do part 2 of this kind of 1-2 punch, step 11, which says we you see, I got to read it when you get all
Through prayer meditation to improve contact with God.
And praying only for the knowledge of his will and the power to carry that out. And it's part of this. The 10 and 11 go hand in hand, and we work them together, and we get better and better, guys. And we are living in the go. So thanks, guys. And we'll see you guys next week here on Recovery Live, 10 o'clock on the West Coast, 1 o'clock here on the East Coast, and 6 o'clock if you're over there in the UK. Thanks everybody that was watching. I didn't say hi, Anna and Christina, and look, Sunny May came back.
Janet, hey Janet.
Dale Barker was on, and we have a bunch of our regulars, and some new people. Janet Jones, some new people.
Dee was in there.
Dee was in there
from
the UK.
Yeah.
I saw Dee on there. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you guys all next week, October 10th, right here on Recovery Live. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Nah.
See ya.
Peace.